It's Friday, August 4th. Welcome back to the live stream here on the Damon Bruce Show. It is brought to you by Ike Sandwiches. There is one in Phoenix, and our guest today comes from Phoenix as well. But it is good to be back. I have been out of commission. Terrible head cold the last couple days. Got a lot of nice well wishes from folks. Thank you very, very much. It is good to be back. I'm going to tell you, if you got to play a little hooky out of school, do it during wild card, opening rounds. I've had a ton of baseball to watch. I've been good. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the quarterback that is not just taking the 49ers by storm, but the entire NFL by storm. We've all seen the numbers and what Brock Purdy has accomplished in the first 25 games of his career. There's never been a better quarterback rating in the first 25 games. His success is almost unmatched, and he is right in a conversation with current Hall of Famer Kurt Warner and future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes, who, just beat Brock Purdy in the last Super Bowl. And had the head coach known the overtime rules, maybe that would have been a little bit different. But for someone who was there from day one for Brock Purdy, that's who we have on the show today. Dan Manucci, who is one half of Rock and Manucci, the best sports talk show in Phoenix on Fox Sports 910. These guys do an incredible show with their friend Jimmy B, and I've been appearing on their show for years. They've been nice enough to appear on my show, and here he is, Dan Manucci, who's a proud K-State alum. You can see the helmet right there. You can see that helmet. Former professional quarterback, by the way, and he coaches him up. He coaches him up in Phoenix, and one of those guys that you have coached up was Brock Purdy. Dan, thank you so much for joining me, man. It's great to see you.
Oh, Damon, always a pleasure to join you. By the way, I don't care, what they say about you. We love you here in Phoenix, Arizona. By the way, you look good for an old guy. I got to tell you,
thank you.
Scuffleuples it is, but you know what? I'm very proud to be on here to educate a lot of your viewers and listeners that are out there that Brock Purdy is, first and foremost, one of the finest, nicest, most sincere, humble individuals you will ever meet. And then training this young man from ninth grade all the way through high school and all the way through Iowa State. And then prior to him going to mini camp, prior to him getting drafted, then going to mini camp and going to training camp, this young man worked hard, has always worked hard. And he's always been one of those guys, if I could steal a line from the Oliver Twist movie, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" That's his attitude. So his humility, his hard work, and his caring for other people kind of brings a little synopsis of who Brock Purdy truly is.
Isn't that from Animal House too? Thank you, sir. May I have another? Totally different scene, though. It really is.
Well, yeah, there's a little bit of a translation they did, but like when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor, he's on a roll. Let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Dan, do you remember how you and Brock met? That first meeting when it came about, does he, through his parents, contact you? His high school coach contact you? Do you scout him, contact him, think you can help? How did it come together?
Well, it's interesting. I was training a quarterback in Brock's right before his freshman year, after his freshman year. Then I trained and went to Perry High School. And he had trained with me. And then all of a sudden, about, I'm going to say, spring of his ninth grade year, his dad called me, Sean Purdy called. Said, "Hey, Dan, this is Sean Purdy. My son Brock Purdy." Now, the lore of when Brock Purdy had already been growing. He played a little bit as a sophomore at Perry High School. But what he did in junior high school, as far as junior football, his freshman year, was already starting to grow. So here was a young man, a little bit ahead of the curve, played a little bit as a sophomore. And then after that freshman year, his dad called me and said, "Hey, look, would you look about training Brock?"
Just to ask, is Perry a big-time program in Phoenix?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Perry's as big as they get. We got 6A, 5A, 4A. They're 6A.
Okay.
So it's big boy ball. And so he called me that early spring, and we chatted. And I said, "Okay, well, have him show up at Tumbleweed Park there in Chandler. Have him out there at 9 o'clock. We'll get him going about 9:15. So I always get there, set up the cones, the footwork. So I get there about 8:30, 8:45. Brock's already walking on the field, ready to go. Got a couple of receivers, and he's good to go. And from the onset, The thing about Brock Purdy, for a lot of you folks to understand, is that he came ready to work out. I tell people out there in the lab, as I call it, it ain't recess. It's not. We work out. We don't hang out. We work out. And he was ready. He was focused. Even as a ninth grader and 10th grader, he always had this work acumen about him. And that's the one thing. He was quiet. He listened and he worked hard. Every drill, 110%. Because I go 90 minutes, and footwork, mechanics, movement, escapability, throwing on the run, keeping your eyes up, and then I mix cardio with that. So from ninth grade on through high school, college, and then prior to him going to the San Francisco 49ers, that was kind of my mantra with all of my students, like Tyler Shuck, quarterback at Louisville, having a hell of a year this year. He's been training since 8th grade. So when I get a Tyler Shuck, I get a Ty Thompson, a backup at Tulane. I get Chubba Purdy, his brother, out there, and I get Brock Purdy out there. You have all these alphas that are out there working with one focus to get better and not take a drill off, to always stay focused and listen. They would absorb all the time. And in the case of Brock, he was always attentive as to, if we make this move and we make this throw, not that he would ask, but I would explain it to him and he would absorb that. And the thing about Brock is he retains so much. And when I watch him now, as far as his footwork, his mechanics, he's taken that over the years that I've trained him. He's trained with a couple other guys. I think the guy back in Florida, the Hewitt guy, who is a guy that basically does, we did his rehab and some of the things. The retention and the way Brock does things has started way back from ninth grade, and he's never got bored. Listen to this now, got bored with the process. Where have you heard that before?
So
All the above.
there's a lot of guys who can do it, but there's not a lot of guys who love working at it.
Yes.
And that is a real difference maker between, did you top out in college? Did you make it to the pros? Did you have a cup of coffee in the pros? Did you, it's funny. I was just talking about this earlier this morning too. I think that one of the greatest attributes of Brock Purdy is that his physical attributes weren't so overwhelming. He couldn't just fall back on them. And, I use the example of Michael Vick. Michael Vick was obviously a student of the game and he knew his X's and O's. But when anything went wrong, he could just turn on, Olympic level sprinter speed and make a play with his legs. So working on that fourth read probably wasn't as important to him as it was just go. And Purdy never had the overwhelming physical gifts, which meant he could take a day off in the classroom. Sure. And that is why I think Kyle Shanahan identified him as someone who will take what I want. He will do what I want my quarterback to do. He will see the game through my eyes and his eyes at the same time. What's one of the first things you worked on with Brock? What's one of the first corrected things and attributes you had to build better in him just to be offered a scholarship to Iowa State?
This might be funny, but from the get-go, it was showing a consistent spiral because he was a baseball guy. So he would supinate through the ball versus pronate.
Different mechanics, totally.
Mechanics. So we got that. And then when he would throw on the run, he would hop. He would like jump and throw. So keeping his feet down when he throws on the run, pronating, understanding where the ball has to go. And then the other thing too, he always kind of sailed the ball high and really working on him driving, accelerating down through the throw versus driving the throw. So once he learned those, I know those sound very simple, but we worked on that. And as he started to understand the throwing mechanics, the throwing per se, he really became very adept. Now, I will say this. Brock Purdy has always been very accurate. He's been accurate. The ball might have a little wobble on it back then. Now it's a tight spiral. But he's accurate. We learned on where to put the ball on certain throws. If it's a seam route, make sure it's out front. If it's a deep route, make sure you miss him deep. If it's an out route, miss him outside. If it's a dig route inside, keep the ball down. And those are some of the things that he really learned. But from the get-go, it was just some real basic mechanics because he had a lot of baseball in him. And by the way, folks, he was a phenomenal baseball player before he switched all off to football full-time. But those are some of the things that you see translated now. And then also using his body. He's got a good size frame even there, turning through the ball, getting the right thumb in the left pocket, getting his back into it, getting his shoulder into it, and then staying upright. So he stay upright, turns. So when you watch him now, he turns with the ball. He's almost like that guy standing tall and pivoting through the throw. So 3 or 4 mechanics I had to get somewhat him to get used to and get him comfortable in uncomfortable situations, which he eventually has.
Coachability. It's one of the most important abilities for any player to have at any level of development or professional. It's, you got to be coachable, and he seems to be incredibly coachable. How is it in a world of social media distraction? He seems to be completely unaffected by that. I joke around all the time. I grew up with the last great American life. I graduated college, and Facebook didn't exist until after I graduated college. We were not online at all in my childhood, in my young adulthood, and Brock did not grow up in that world. He grew up in trying to seek attention and fame early as a high school kid, but he seems unaffected by all of that. How did he rise above that?
I think Brock has always had that attitude of, just keeping his focus straight ahead. And I've always told him, his parents have told him, a lot of people, ignore the noise. Just ignore it. And I'll never forget this. So I was playing with the Buffalo Bills, and our head coach was Chuck Knox back in those days. And I was backing up Joe Ferguson. And the one thing that really stuck to my mind, because a lot of guys were getting caught up in the press. And even back in Buffalo, they can be somewhat, I wouldn't say harsh, but hard on you. And he said one thing, he told the whole team, he said, look, guys, he said, you're never as good and you're never as bad as they say you are. Somewhere in the middle lies the truth. And Brock is led by the mantra, hey, look, what's next? He's ignored the noise. We've talked about a lot about that stuff. And guys, frankly, he doesn't care. Now, he does have a little chip on his shoulder. He felt he should have been drafted a little bit earlier, but he doesn't let stuff consume him, if that makes sense to you. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to go out there and prove that he's worthy of being on an NFL team by outworking people, outsmarting people, understanding the plays, understanding the system. So when you look at all the naysayers out there, that by the way, they're doing a little Michael Jackson right now, aren't they, Damon? They're doing a little moonwalking on one Brock Purdy. And I've seen a lot of this in him from the get-go, but I think like anything else, it's, oh my gosh, wow, all this success. Well, it's got to be the system. Well, it's got to be the guys. It's got to be this. Well, heck, I think you had the JV team playing in that Rams game, and he did pretty doggone good, if I recollect, a few weeks ago. But that social media thing, he's very limited. It's all positive, and that's the way he is. If things go bad, okay, meaning Brock Purdy, need to do better to make this team. And if, quite frankly, Damon, it's his humility of ignoring all that stuff, knowing that his faith and his motivation moving forward is not tied up to what people think.
So he comes to the first crossroads of his professional career, the torn elbow after the disastrous NFC title game in Philadelphia when he got hurt, and then the 49ers just had no options behind him, and it ended the season prematurely. It really did. I think they would have won that game had Brock played the entirety of that game. What's he like when you talk to him after that? What's his mental status like coming back from elbow surgery and working through that? Take us a little bit behind that curtain.
Well, first and foremost, he goes, okay, I've got a challenge here. And his challenge was to do the prehab. And as he's getting ready to go do surgery, there was a setback because the elbow was still inflamed.
Prehab. I've never even heard that phrase before. You taught me some prehab. That's phenomenal. Okay.
So the prehab, so for you folks, meaning they want to get the area where they're going to operate strong. They want to get as healthy as they possibly can. But the key is the inflammation lingered longer than they thought. So when he was getting ready to go to, I believe it was Dallas, to get the surgery, they said it's not quite calmed down is the term. So they had to wait another couple extra weeks. Had the surgery, came back, did his rehab, and then he kind of slowly but surely, but his attitude, to answer your question, Damon, was just like impeccable. All right, I've got a challenge. I'm ready to go make this thing work. I will get back. I'm not going to try and get back. I know I'm going to get back. What do I need to do? Again, thank you, sir. May I have another? What do we need to do to move on? Goes back to Florida. They have a throwing program, a rehab program, throwing program combined to get the arm strength up. But his whole attitude is, okay, I've been dealt a bad blow. Not really. So maybe this is a blessing in disguise. That's his attitude. His attitude is, all right, what do I need to do? I've been in a setback. It happens. Kind of like the old adage I use. I mean, if you get sacked as a quarterback, okay, you get back up and you call the next play. Versus, I get sacked. Why did I get sacked? Let me call the next play and correct that. And in this case, for Brock, it was just working. He came back. His attitude was always, okay, I've been dealt a tough blow. There's other people that have had tougher blows than me that have had to deal. I'm playing, his attitude is like, I'm playing pro football. I got to go deal with this. Okay, let's go deal with it. Come back stronger and better than ever.
At any point in time, developing him in high school, did you think, yeah, I'm working with a guy who's going to come into the league and have one of the best 25-game opening things we've ever seen in the history of football? I mean, he really is. And this is just so funny, and it just lets you know that the people who are talking about sports don't exactly know what they're looking at half the time. Anyone who's been disparaging Brock Purdy or trying to tell you what he isn't, while what he has been is nothing short of a historically significant and good start, not only in terms of individual statistics, but I heard winning football games is also important. And boy, the 49ers have done an awful lot of that since he's become their starting quarterback. Did you think you were working with an athlete that could turn into someone this prolific, or did you need to see it before you believed it too?
You know, it's interesting. All through high school, he's always had that special ability, escapability, making plays out of nothing. I mean, he was phenomenal to watch him in high school do all the things he did. You know, the yardage, the throwing, the accuracy, the winning, going to the state game his senior year, taking on Chandler High School, who is one of the most talented teams, and taking him to the mat. And for me, it's fun because I broadcast all the high school games here locally in Phoenix, and also the championship games. And then when we got to college, all the things we worked on and continued to work on through Iowa State, you start to see this growth in this young man as far as getting into games and making those same things work at the next level, and then continue to build on it. And then I will say this, watching him at Iowa State, and watching him on a consistent basis. Because, Damon, let's make no jokes about it. Reps matter, okay? Playing in 40-some, 50-some games matter. Like Bo Nix, look at him in Denver. He played, 60-some games in his college career. But watching him throw the ball, see the field, escapability, making plays with his feet, making plays with his arms. But it was the Fiesta Bowl here, I believe it was 2020, when it was fun because he's with Iowa State his junior year, and Tyler Shuck is with Oregon. I believe it was his sophomore year. Two guys I've been training forever go against each other in the Fiesta Bowl. Brock is the MVP, and being there in person, the limited amount of people, and watching him move and throw and accuracy, I went, you know what? He's got a chance at the next level, you know, whatever deficiencies aside, because he's accurate, you know, he sees things. But I will say this. Right before mini camp, Brock gets prior to Brock getting drafted, we worked out, and then right before mini camp, he was coming out maybe twice a week, and we were throwing. I had receivers out there, quarterbacks out there. Brock getting his body into it. Now everything has come together. Damon, the ball never hit the ground for an hour and a half. He was accurate. He was money. He had the zip on the ball. Everything was coming together, and I went, you know what, Brock? I told him. I pulled him aside. I'll never forget this day. I said, look, you can make it. You can play in this league. I said, you got to believe it. I said, I've seen them all. You throw well, you move well. And he looked at me and goes, I appreciate that, coach. I really do. I just want him to know I wasn't going to blow anything up his skirt, right? I said, you can make it. You've got the ability to make it. So he goes into training camp, mini camp, first and foremost after the draft, and carries that through. He came back after mini camp. We built on his footwork. What I did do is I sped up the drills, because the National Football League, for a lot of your viewers, if let's say college football is a third gear, high school second gear, college is third or fourth gear, playing the speed of the National Football League is like going to seventh gear, just to give you an idea how quick the game is. So we quickened up the drills, we quickened up the pace, we did a lot quicker, more cardiovascular, more of this, more of that to a different level. And he handled it. So I felt that I saw that pretty much. You don't really see it in high school. You see ability. Don't get me wrong. But college, it was that junior and senior years, and when this kid's got a chance. And the thing that's key here, folks, you got to remember, is that when John Lynch sees reps and sees a consistency in a kid an entire year, that will translate in the National Football League. And I always tell my quarterbacks, Damon, I said, don't be consistent. Be consistently consistent in all you do. That'll be noticed, and that's translated the first year, the second year, and this third year. He now sees it as it's unfolding. Before, okay, it unfolds, react. Now Brock, on his first step, he's reading, is reacting, not thinking, but he's seeing as the defense unfolds. He's seeing as it's unfolding. He doesn't have to wait till it unfolds, if that makes sense.
I tell you, he operated an awful lot in the middle of the field. The NFL has taken that away from him, so now he's going further outside the numbers. You can just see him always taking what the defense is giving him. And obviously Shanahan runs an offense that gives him, opportunities to make plays because Kyle's really good X's and O's. But I think where the difference in what we've seen this year, Purdy early on, as to last year, is with his feet. He is now, his pocket awareness, his ability to move around the pocket, his ability to throw across his body when he's moving in the opposite direction, which is a little bit of a no-no, but he can do it. I mean, he can do it. He can get away with it, and you got to have that belief in yourself. And man, if it's 3rd and 4 and he thinks I can pick up 5 yards with my feet now, gone. He just does it. And it's all coming together. It's like he's, he can see the matrix now, like you said. He's not just reading and reacting; he's anticipating.
And Damon, on top of that, he's not careless with the football. There's a couple times I think his rookie year and second year that Shanahan looked at him with that cross-eyed, or Brian Greasy gets over and goes, what were you thinking? But here's the one thing about Brock: he's not afraid to play. He's not afraid to make a mistake. Now he understands what I mean by that. If you're going to be a quarterback in the National Football League, you can't be afraid to pull the trigger. If you miss, you come back, you learn. But to your point, what Brock does now, when he moves, his eyes are up the field. He's looking to make a play because you got dudes on that offense all over the place. So he's looking to make a play. And if he's got to get out and get the first down, to your point, he will do that. But he knows he's not going to make a living running the ball. Guys, but he's still running. He's quick. He may not be fast, but he's very quick, great escapability. But his footwork has been enhanced. You see him, he's calm in the pocket, and he's not telegraphing. And then some of the throws he's making, we've worked on those in the lab, Damon, just so you know, as that just in case. I don't preach that you do that, but we're gonna throw right, come back left, torque your body. If we're gonna do it, let's do it right. The old off-platform throws, right? But we've worked on a lot of the footwork, a lot of the movements, a lot of the throws over the last 12 years with him, so that he's familiar, or he's kind of been there and done that. As I mentioned earlier, being comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Brock is trained that way. He did that at Iowa State. If you go back and look at his footage, you'll go, oh my gosh. Yeah, he did it against K-State. He did that against Oklahoma. And so those are some of the things you take. But one of the things that we did work on is throwing and playing in the elements, understanding the rain, understanding the wind, the cold, and making sure you gauge that. Thinking, because there's probably 25 to 30 things a quarterback will think of, getting that play from the sideline or getting it into his ears, that they're going to think of, have to digest, have to relate, and then know all the movements that are going to happen, plus the adjustments. So what Brock has done now, he understands what he can do, what he should do. And as we learned many, many years ago, sometimes throw it away, sometimes take the sack. And you know what, Damon? It's okay to punt. And I think Brock has realized that's, you know what? You got a defense there. Let's not try to get a touchdown if it's not there every play.
Dan, my last question is, what has he told you about the relationships that he has with Kyle Shanahan and Brian Greasy, who I really do think is one of the unsung coaches in his success early on here. Greasy's done an awful lot to work with him. But what has he told you about Shanahan, who we know is, a big-time taskmaster?
Well, that's it right there. I think And it's not something that that Brock is unfamiliar with. He said, look, he said, Kyle Shanahan, and it's kind of interesting. He came back after the first mini camp, and we were talking about that. And then after training camp, we talked during that first year. He said, Coach, he's focused. Might be a little bit of a ball buster, if you will. I would just say kind of a taskmaster. But see, Brock's used to that. And the way he's trained, the way he's played, the way he's coached up, he welcomes that. That might be taken the wrong way with some quarterbacks, some young quarterbacks. Brock's like, okay, what else do you have? What else do you have? Okay, I screwed up. Where can I get better, Coach? And I think for Kyle Shanahan and for Brian Griese, by the way, I agree. I mention Brian Griese all the time in my interviews. I said, Brian Griese is the guy. He was a hell of a quarterback. He understands mechanics. He understands the game, but he understands Kyle Shanahan's philosophy. And Brock, dialing in on that, has really learned how to work hard on a day in and out basis. He goes, Coach, I thought you were tough on us, because I get after him a little bit, Damon. I really do. He said he appreciated all the toughness we had, that I had out there in my drills, because he hears the same thing. And he goes, hey, Coach, we film everything. One-on-ones, air, 7-on-7s. And he said after practice, Kyle Shanahan will chime in, or he'll be in the stands watching us work out, chiming in. But Brock's the kind of guy that welcomes the critique. He welcomes the, how do I get better? He welcomes, how do I make this system better? And with Brian Griese and all the drills that he does, they really work together. And first, instead of guys getting a little upset, because Kyle can get in your grill, as he should, and you know that, Damon. He welcomes that, and he'll look. And I always tell guys this: look, filter in what's productive, filter out all the other noise, that stuff that a coach might say. There might be a few I call it vernacular faux pas in there,
sure,
that guys have, but he welcomes that, and he says he loves it because he's getting coached up. And you mentioned this earlier: the great ones, the best of it, they want to get coached up. They want to get critiqued. They want to get better. What do I do to get better? And that's Brock Purdy.
You know what I would do if I were like a GM and I'm scouting guys? I would start counting transfers as much as I would look at touchdown to interception ratio, because there's a little bit of this NIL era and transfer era where coach really gets hard on you, you look for an easier path somewhere else. If that depth chart looks a little too tough to crack, well, you're going to go and park your yacht in a slip that's easier to park in, maybe. As someone, and this isn't even about Brock Purdy anymore, and he clearly has cleared this hurdle, what is it like to work with kids today and encourage them that the coach who's yelling at you today that you want to transfer from today could be the best thing that ever happened to you? Be patient, stay in the system. It's hard to teach patience to kids who haven't grown up with the concept of it and now are bound by no patient setting rules in college. There's a lot that's great about NIL and the freedom to transfer. There's also many things that are bad at it, including kids not knowing how to take one on the chin anymore by a tough coach.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm tough on them, Damon. So I do a little. I test them physically. I test them mentally. I want to gauge where they're at because of that you just talked about. I said, look, go compete, play the best. It may not come your first year, your second year, then all of a sudden, and I'm an example of that. My senior year at Kansas State, I finally start every game. I blossomed. I've worked hard. I stayed at Kansas State because there were times I thought that stadium was built on Indian burial grounds, as bad as we were. I really did. But what was I going to do? Go home, sit out a year, maybe walk on at ASU or go play baseball? But I'll never forget this. I was bound and determined after spring football my junior year. I'm staying. I'm going to make the best out of it. I'm going to make lemonade out of lemons. And I try to emphasize these young men. Work hard, play hard. Good things will happen. And you'll be respected because those other guys – watching you, because remember, actions speak louder than words. And when they see that and you hang in there, that's the thing. So I will test these guys. If I see and they say, well, I want to transfer because this isn't fair and that's not fair. Okay, if you're not getting a fair shot and they're very blatantly putting people in front of you, I can see you moving on, but you better take it to the nth degree before you move on.
And you can always have this over Brock too. Be like, no matter what you accomplish in your career, I went in the 5th round, kiddo.
Exactly. And the thing is, I tell kids, I said, look, I didn't start until my senior year at McClintock High School in Tempe. I didn't start until my 2nd year at Mason Community College as a sophomore. My 3rd year at Kansas State, I'm off and on playing good, but the other guys play as a senior. And then my senior year, all that perseverance pays off. They say, tag Dan, you're it. Now, are you ready? And I tell guys, you better be ready. Because, if you're ready to go and stop pouting and hem and haw my call, don't be no pouty faces out here, right? You better be ready to go when your chance opportunity arises, because proper preparation prevents poor performance. And that better be it. And that perseverance and endurance, it pays off. And if you're Mr. Irrelevant, you become relevant in a heartbeat, because you've got those tools in your toolbox to make things happen.
Dan, thank you for giving us a peek behind the construction of Brock Purdy and how this all happened. I think you got an awful lot of fingers in the pie, man. You really do. You should be very proud of what you're seeing. And obviously, as a guy who covers sports in Arizona now for 20 years, one of the best sports talk show hosts there is, I got to ask you about this game. What do you think? We got Cardinals. We got a division rival here. I'll tell you, Cardinals always answer the bell when it rings for the Niners. They do.
Yeah, matter of fact, I think a few short years ago, James Conner ran wild there on the San Francisco 49ers a few years ago. But I see one of the things I see at San Francisco, the blessing in disguise with the injuries you've had, guys here and there, is how Brock has run the team and how the team has had to adapt without the home run hitters in there, right? I mean, Jennings, Mason, this kid's amazing.
Yeah.
Offensive line. But I think what you're seeing as a team, the Niners starting to – I think the WD-40 has knocked a lot of the rust off. And you're seeing a team starting to feel it. But the Cardinals, their defense is tough. And then there's Kyler Murray. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Better.
So you better contain him. The new kid, MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, James Conner, they'll come ready to play. So you can't sit on it. But I think what I see San Francisco is a team that's starting to hit their stride. Brock's in stride, making things happen. So I think this might be a close one with San Francisco. I could see a 24-21, 24-17 victory by the 49ers.
Manucci, always great to talk to you, brother. You need someone on the radio, you give me a call. You got the number, and we'll do it again real soon. Thank you for coming on today, though, and I think you really gave people some perspective on their quarterback that they really needed to hear. It's awesome to hear how it's all been put together, man. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. And a couple things I always tell Brock, keep on keeping on, which he does, and I always tell him, don't be slacking and Cadillacing, and he never does.
He drives trucks. He's not a Cadillac guy. You can tell. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, guys.
Great to see him. Dan Manucci, half a rockin' Manucci, 910 in Arizona. That's the show for you if you're out there. Awesome, awesome stuff from a great guy. Really, really appreciate his time this afternoon. Think about what this kid has been through in his career. Selected last pick of the draft, thrown into a situation battling directly against the incredibly handsome Jimmy Garoppolo, the incredibly high-drafted Trey Lance, and he doesn't blink. As a matter of fact, there are now stories that are coming out how early on you had Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan just saying, hey, forget about these other guys. Look at our future. It lays in the 7th rounder. You know how hard that is to walk into your owner's office and say, hey, Jed, I know that we just traded 3 first rounders for Trey Lance, but this other guy, there's a lot of salesmanship that has to go on there, but the proof has certainly been in the pudding. It's been a remarkable, remarkable start to Brock Purdy's career. Again, thanks so much to Dan Manucci for joining us. One of the best guys out there, man. Just good people all the way through and through. It is good to be back with you. I mean, I was down for the count with a bad head cold this week. So let's get right to some important things early on here. Number one, that guy right there, Mr. Ike's of Ike Sandwiches. I hope you have downloaded that app. And if you haven't, I want you to download it right now. There's a free sandwich waiting for you. When you do download that app, if you're downloading it for the first time, if you're using it, you can win all sorts of prizes like free chips, free soda, all sorts of things that you can use. And on the app and in person, by the way, you can use the promo code SAT3 on Saturday. This Saturday, October 5th, is going to be the last Saturday of the $3 off any sandwich at Ike's. by using promo code SAT3. And unfortunately, that doesn't apply to the Santa Rosa, San Mateo, or Redwood City locations, but anywhere else in the Ike's universe, you will find it there. When you need a good Guinness in the universe, you just got to go to the Dubliner on West Portal, and you will find one waiting for you right there. The Dubliner in West Portal is there. They want you to tell them we're here because Damon sent us. Walk on in and say hi to Kenny and John, and they're going to take great care of you as soon as they hear that. Even if you don't say that, they're going to take great care of you. Dubliner, West Portal, we will be doing PluceMania from there again during the bye week, so just make a mental note. We'll have more details as that weekend approaches. And thanks so much to, hold on, let me bring this up right over here. Boom, 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 boom. Go over here. I got one thing. Thanks so much to Joe Sullivan, who says, I enjoy my Friday with Ganja. I just wanted to toss in a donation to the Ganja Jar. Happy Friday, Damon. Thank you so much for the content. Joe, thank you very much. And it will go, oh, see, I'm a terrible pointer. There's the Ganja Jar. There's the JJ Raider Ganja Jar right there. It'll go right in there. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate it. We stop for Super Chats, unless, of course, we are doing an interview, in which case we want to keep everyone focused on that. But thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate it. Thanks to my boys at the Dubliner. Thanks to all of you. Means an awful lot. Let's see. We got to bring this up, too. Thanks for thanking all the sponsors. Thank you so much to BetUS. You can go ahead and use promo code YouTube150 to save 150% off your first deposit up to $2,000 with 125% on your next two deposits up to $2,000 over on BetUS. Check it out. You'll be very, very happy that you did. And, oh, by the way, I've seen the number has come down a little bit on the 49ers and Cardinals game. Wasn't that at 8.5? Didn't that go 10? It's down San Francisco -7 now. I would lay it and play it. Absolutely. I think the 49ers are going to put up 40 on the Cardinals. I love Dan. Dan's a quarterback. He's talking about, the Cardinals defense. The Cardinals defense is not very good. And the 49ers should be able to absolutely take advantage of the Cardinals defense all afternoon. The question is, will they shut down James Conner? Are they going to let Kyler Murray get loose and Marvin Harrison Jr.? Just don't let that kid go bonkers on you. And it should be a day where their Niners' ability to handle business gets them through the business of this upcoming football game. Oh, there it is. I wondered how long the throat would last. I did a wake up with Larry, got through about an hour and a half of that. Now I'm talking, and it's starting to go. We will be ready to play come game day, and I hope you plan on joining me at the 2-minute warning of 49ers Cardinals, because we'll be going live then. I will say this. If you got to lay around in bed sick, make it the wild card weekend for Major League Baseball, or weekdays, if you will. I've enjoyed a lot of really good baseball on the couch. Being on the couch these last couple days, you don't need to cry any tears for me. I'm out of water, by the way. Here, I need the cold water on the throat. Really, really appreciate all the kind words that people have offered, and that's about it. Are you ready for a history lesson? I know that Rockin' New Air 84 last week gave an RIP Club Plus. The club will reopen. I promise. The club will be back. Just not today. Not with this throat. So today in history. Are you ready? Well, you know what? I'm looking over here, and I just saw out of nowhere somebody says Trump 2024. Yeah, good luck. He seems like he's really, really state of the art right now. And then Craig's Kitchen goes, hey, no politics, which I'll agree with. No fiesta politico, not here, not today. There's certainly enough in the world. We don't need to do that too. However, today in history, happy birthday to two Hollywood icons who come from way different ends of the political spectrum. Happy birthday He's no longer with us. He passed away in 2008. But Charlton Heston was born today. In 1923, he, of course, was Mr. NRA for a long time. You know, from my cold, dead hands, you'll pull this gun. Charlton Heston comes from a world that no longer exists. Salute. You don't get angry at old men for their old men beliefs or their racism. It's what they grew up with. Anyways, Charlton Heston born today. And on the totally opposite side of the political spectrum, also born today, she's turning 78 years old. Susan Sarandon's birthday is today. Susan Sarandon is a great actress. Great puppies, too. Back in the day. Oh, Susan had them. We're talking D-cups. Anyways, great actress. Bull Durham, to this day, still remains an incredible movie. Bull Durham is as much of a movie about her being sexy as hell and interesting as it is about baseball. So you cannot have Bull Durham without Susan Sarandon. Picture any other, can you picture anybody other than Bruce Willis playing John McClane in Die Hard? I can't. Can you picture anyone other than Harrison Ford playing either Han Solo or Indiana Jones? You can't even picture another actor in that role. That's how much they owned it. Nobody could have played Annie. Nobody could have played Annie better than Susan Sarandon and Bull Durham. She was perfect. Did she win an Oscar for that? She should have. She's great in Bull Durham. Not to get political again, but today in 1957, the Russians launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite to circumnavigate the globe in outer space. Sputnik, it created the big, part of the Red Scare, and oh my God, and McCarthy, and blah blah blah, and Sputnik, and of course gave us the line from So I Married an Axe Murderer, big head Sputnik. So thank you, Russia. Thank you for Sputnik. Really launched the space age. Today in 1970, we lost Janis Joplin. Obviously, she was gone before I got here. But there is no one on the planet who ever sounded like her. Janis Joplin, she's in a class photo of one. That voice could only come from her. There's no decent Janis Joplin impression. No one even ever tried. You don't get Haight-Ashbury without her. But she died today of an accidental overdose on heroin in 1970. So today's the day that Janis Joplin died. And speaking of icons passing away, today in 1989, Secretariat had to be put down. Of course, the Triple Crown winner, euthanized for contracting laminitis, which is, I guess, bad. I don't know what laminitis is. Hopefully it's not the final process of Achilles tendonitis, and Christian McCaffrey's going to have to be put down anytime soon. But today we said goodbye to Secretariat, and of course when they did the autopsy on Secretariat, they found out that his heart was about twice the size of a normal horse's heart. So have a big heart, everybody. It can't hurt, right? It can't hurt to have a big heart. By the way, here we go. This is why Chef A is one of the coolest chicks you'll ever meet in your life. Saw Joplin live at the University of Toledo. Amazing. Drinking SoCo right on stage. Yeah, Janis drowned herself in SoCo, which little Southern Comfort and Coke on a, I mean Southern Comfort and Coca-Cola. On a warm summer's day, I could do one of those. I could do maybe even two of those. But then that's enough. That's way too sweet. SoCo on its own, like you're drinking SoCo, right out of the bottle. Jesus. Whoa. No, thank you. No, thank you. It was great hanging out with you today. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for waiting patiently for me. We dropped a couple of videos that have been, I think, some really good videos, some of the best work that we've done. So I hope that you check those out. By the way, I do want to say, we did a video and a podcast with Glen Kuiper, because him not being involved in any way, shape, or form in the A's goodbye bothered me. So I reached out to him. I thought editing him out of history was just lousy. Glen and I did an interview together that, of course, when you put something up on the internet, which is the home of every asshole that ever lived, he didn't know exactly how the reaction was going to be. He thought that it was going to be a whole world of unforgiveness and trying to frame him as someone who is comfortable using the N-word and must be a closet racist, and he's hidden it well all these years. And he thought that he was going to get motherfucked again, basically, by the internet, and anything but that has happened. And it's meant an awful lot to the Kuipers that they have seen the public reaction to that video. The comments on that Glen Kuiper video have been so overwhelmingly positive and forgiving and loving. It has put a bounce back into the step of La Familia Kuiper. And I'm very, very happy that I could play a tiny, eensy-weensy role in that happening. It meant a lot to them. So if you watch that and you left a kind comment on that, just know that it got right back to the source and it meant an awful lot. So your comments, you probably think you type them in here and they just vanish and they don't matter. The truth is they do. And that's why we have such a cool group of people to hang out with. Such an awesome little chat room that we have all the time. Familiar faces, same names. I love you guys. You're fantastic. I really did. I missed you the last couple of days while I was under the weather. So let's get right back to it. And hopefully by next week, everything will just be kosher again. Speaking of that as well, we also missed Rosh Hashanah. I have an awful lot of friends in the tribe, including the Beverly Hills rabbi who I spoke to last week. He's now the Teaneck, New Jersey rabbi. He's in an assisted living home. But the rabbi wanted to wish all of you, no matter which way your prayer beads bend, the very best blessings and good tidings. And the Beverly Hills rabbi, now the Teaneck rabbi, is thinking of all of you, and he listens to the show. He says, Damon, watch your mouth. You swear a little bit more than you ever have. He does sound just like Jackie Mason. He really does. He's like, you swear a little bit more than you ever have. I said, Rabbi, I have 18 years, nearly 20 years of not swearing on the air built into me. It's all coming out now. But he's a great guy. So, Shana Tova, for those of you who swing that way. Chevy Nova, for the rest of you. And thank you so much for watching. It is wonderful to have you here. Beverly Hills Rabbi. Thanks so much to today's guest, Dan Manucci. Manuch, half a rocka Manuch. This is Chef A. My peoples. Joe Schmo. Shalom. Carl. Give Glenn another chance. Amen. It's time. It is absolutely time. True Blue. I missed the Beverly Hills Rabbi. Wasn't he the best? Oh my God. The calls coming in from Beverly Hills Rabbi complaining about the kosher options that all the Bay Area stadiums would have. Damon, I called Larry Bear. I said we needed more kosher options. He actually likes John Fisher, but I think he's just getting scored on Jew at that point. But he did say he was receptive to kosher options and then said there was no kosher ability at the Coliseum, which feels like bullshit to me, which makes it very John Fisher-y because that's what John Fisher is. He's kind of bullshit. Anyways, to Dan Manucci, to all of you, to the rabbi, to everyone, you're the best. Damon, your cardboard friend needs a drink. Ike, you need a drink? I tell you what, I got a sore throat. I need a little bit of a drink. Here you go, Christopher. Cheers. Again, I did a shot. Wow. I did a shot on Wake Up this morning. That's it. I have not had a 9 a.m.er in a while. Parenthood. No more drinking whiskey at 9 a.m. Probably a good thing. Probably a good thing. Thanks, folks. Great hanging out with you as always. And please do remember, I'll be live at the 2-minute warning. And sports don't build character. They reveal it. And like that, he's gone.